Once upon a time, there was a woman named Adora Obianuju. She was the kind of woman people whispered about when she passed, not only because she was stunning, tall, graceful, with eyes that seemed to see right through you, but also because she was one of the richest women in Lagos. Adora owned estates, companies, and even a private jet. Yet her mansion was always quiet. No children's laughter, no family dinners, only silence echoing through wide halls. People said she was cold, heartless, untouchable, but Adora carried a pain she never showed. Her husband had died years ago and they had no children. She hid her loneliness behind expensive clothes, dark sunglasses, and endless meetings that filled her days. But on one stormy evening, her life was about to change. The sky cracked open with thunder. Rain poured heavily over Lagos, flooding the streets and slowing traffic. Adora sat in the back of her sleek black SUV, scrolling through her phone, uninterested in the chaos outside. Suddenly, through the wet glass, she noticed something unusual. At the crowded bus stop stood a young boy, no more than 12. His shirt was torn, his feet were bare, and in his thin arms he clutched two tiny babies wrapped in damp old blankets. Their faces were pale, their cries weak, but the boy held them close as though shielding them from the world. The rain beat down on all three of them mercilessly. For the first time in years, Adora's heart skipped. Who was this boy? And why did those babies remind her so much of someone she once knew? Her eyes narrowed. "Stop the car," she whispered. The driver slowed the SUV, puzzled by Adora's sudden command. "Madam, should I really stop here?" "It's dangerous." But Adora didn't take her eyes off the boy. Her voice was sharper this time. "I said stop the car." The tires screeched slightly as the SUV pulled over by the curb. Adora unfastened her seatbelt and, without waiting for an umbrella, opened the door. Instantly, rain poured down on her silk dress and flawless hair, but she didn't care. Her heels clicked against the wet pavement as she strode toward the bus stop. The boy froze when he saw her coming. His eyes darted from side to side like a cornered animal. The babies whimpered softly in his arms, shivering inside the wet blankets. He pulled them closer to his chest, his thin body shaking under the weight of both siblings. "Who are you?" Adora asked, her voice calm but commanding. The boy looked down, refusing to meet her gaze. His lips trembled before he muttered, "My name is Chike." Adora bent slightly, staring at the children. Their tiny fingers peeked out of the blankets, stiff from the cold. Her chest tightened. "And these babies, are they your sisters?" Chike hesitated. "Yes." He paused and whispered, "They are all I have." Adora's eyes flicked over his small frame. He couldn't have been older than 12, yet he carried the burden of a father. She frowned. "Where are your parents?" The question hit him like a slap. His face hardened, though his voice cracked. "My mama, she died when the twins were born. My papa, I don't know where he is. Maybe gone forever." Adora inhaled sharply. The baby stirred again, one letting out a weak, scratchy cry. Chike bounced slightly on his feet, patting the blanket with a nervous hand. He wasn't pretending. He had done this many times before. "Why are you standing here in the rain?" Adora pressed. Chike's shoulders stiffened. "Sometimes people give me food or a little money. If I stay long enough, maybe somebody will help us." His voice dropped. Adora's driver had run up behind her with an umbrella, holding it carefully above her head. "Madam, please, let's leave." This is one of those street tricks. Some children even borrow babies to make people pity them. But Adora didn't move. Her eyes stayed locked on Chike. There was something about him, something that stirred a memory she couldn't place. "You didn't stretch your hand," she said suddenly. "You didn't ask me for money." Chike swallowed hard. His voice was almost drowned by the rain. "I don't beg for myself. I don't want them to die." The honesty in his words pierced Adora. For the first time in years, she felt her throat tighten. She glanced back at her car, then at the trembling boy. Her instincts told her to walk away, to protect her reputation and peace. But another voice, a gentler one, told her this was no accident. "Come with me," Adora said quietly. Cheek's eyes widened. He stepped back, clutching the babies tighter. No, please, no police. Don't take us to an orphanage. They'll separate us. I promise, Mom, I'd never let that happen. Adora raised a hand, trying to soften her tone. I'm not calling the police. I'm not sending you anywhere. Just come with me. The children need warmth, food, a doctor. Chike's lips quivered. He wanted to believe her, but mistrust was carved into his young face. Why do you care? He asked bitterly. The question caught Adora off guard. She didn't even know the answer herself. All she knew was that leaving him there felt impossible. She straightened her back. Because I refuse to drive away while 3 children stand in the rain and suffer. That's why. The boy stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, cautiously, he nodded. He adjusted the babies in his arms and took a hesitant step forward. Adora turned to her driver. Help him into the car. Now. The driver frowned but obeyed. Chike flinched when the man reached for him, but Adora touched his shoulder gently. It's all right. You're safe. Minutes later, inside the warmth of the SUV, the babies were wrapped in Adora's scarf and shawl. Their cries softened, their breathing steadied. Chike sat stiffly on the edge of the seat, dripping wet, his eyes darting around the luxurious interior like he had stepped into another world. Adora sat opposite him, her gaze fixed on the 2 tiny faces now resting peacefully. Her mind was racing, but one thought rose louder than the rest. This was no coincidence. Something had led her to this boy and his sisters, and she was determined to find out why. The car rolled slowly through the flooded streets, leaving the crowded bus stop behind. Yet, in Adora's heart, the true journey had only just begun. The SUV hummed softly as it glided through the flooded Lagos streets. Inside, silence pressed on all of them. The only sounds were the gentle sniffles of the babies and the rhythmic thump of rain against the roof. Adora leaned back in her seat, staring at the 2 tiny faces wrapped in her scarf. Their skin was pale, their eyes half closed from exhaustion, but their breathing had steadied. Every now and then, one of their tiny fists twitched as though fighting invisible battles in their sleep. Chike sat at the far corner, his wet clothes clinging to his thin body. He folded his arms tightly, as if afraid that at any moment someone might snatch his sisters away. His eyes moved nervously around the car, the glowing dashboard lights, the soft leather seats, the tinted windows that shut out the chaos outside. He had never sat in such a car before. It felt like a palace on wheels. Adora studied him quietly. His jaw was tight. His chin lifted just a little too high for someone his age. She could see it. His fear, his hunger, his stubborn pride. He reminded her of someone. The thought made her shift uncomfortably in her seat. The driver cleared his throat. Madame, should we head home? Adora hesitated. A meeting waited for her downtown, but suddenly it felt meaningless. She turned her face to the window, watching the blurry shapes of Okadas and buses splash through the flooded road. Home? You and your sisters are coming with me. To my house. That's all. Cheek's lips parted, but no words came. His eyes darted from her face to the babies, as if trying to read the truth. Finally, he whispered, Why? Adora didn't answer immediately. She looked down at the babies again. Their eyelashes fluttered, long and delicate. Their cheeks were rounded but pale from hunger. And then it struck her, so suddenly that her chest tightened. Their eyes. Even in the dim light of the car, she could see the shade of their irises. A rare golden brown, almost hazel, the same eyes she once stared into every night. The same eyes her late husband, Kenichuku, carried with quiet pride. Her breath caught. She blinked, shook her head, and told herself it was a trick of the light. But then one of the babies stirred, opened her eyes for a brief second, and looked directly at her. The same piercing color. Adora's heart hammered against her ribs. She pressed a trembling hand against her chest. It can't be. Her late husband had been gone for 3 years. 3 long, lonely years. And all that time, they had lived with the sorrow of childlessness. She remembered his words clearly. Ada, don't blame yourself. Some things are just not meant to be. But what if... Adora turned quickly, her face half hidden in the shadows of the car. She didn't want the boy to see the storm in her eyes. Drive her faster, she said sharply. Yes, madam. The SUV soon pulled into the sweeping driveway of Adora's mansion. The tall black gates opened slowly, guarded by men in uniform. The house rose ahead like a palace, white walls, towering palm trees, and golden light spilling from the windows. Chick's jaw dropped. He had never seen such a place, not even in movies. His sisters stirred restlessly, whimpering softly as if they too sensed the change. Adora stepped out first. Two housemaids rushed forward with umbrellas, but she waved them away. She reached back into the car and gently lifted one of the babies into her arms. The child was surprisingly light, her skin cool from the rain. Adora held her close to her chest, an unfamiliar warmth spreading through her. Jake scrambled out next, clutching the other baby tightly. His bare feet touched the marble tiles of the entrance. He hesitated, glancing down as though afraid to stain them with mud.
"Come inside," Adora said.
Cheek obeyed slowly, his eyes darting across the vast living room as they entered. The chandelier above glittered like 1,000 stars. The marble floor shone. The air smelled of lemon polish and roses. Chike swallowed hard. He felt smaller than ever. Adora placed the baby carefully on a soft velvet couch. "Neka," she called. A woman in a green maid's uniform hurried in. "Yes, madam. Get a warm bowl of water. Call Dr. Musa immediately. Tell him it's urgent." "Yes, madame." The maid hurried off. Adora crouched beside the couch, brushing damp strands of hair from the baby's forehead. The child whimpered softly, then relaxed against the cushions. Jake stepped forward nervously. "Her name is Chidinma," he whispered. "The other one is Chisholm." Adora looked up sharply. "You named them?" Jake nodded. "Yes. Mama, she whispered their names before she died. I promised I'd keep them safe." His voice broke, but he blinked back tears stubbornly. For a long moment, Adora said nothing. She just stared at the boy, the thin arms, the hollow cheeks, the determined eyes. And then at the babies, their tiny chests rising and falling steadily. The maid returned with a steaming bowl of water. Adora dipped a clean towel and gently wiped the babies' faces, drying their damp skin. Her movements were slow, almost reverent, as though afraid they might vanish if she touched too hard. Minutes later, a tall man in a white coat entered briskly. "Good evening, madam."
"Dr. Musa, thank you for coming."
He set down his bag and quickly examined the twins. He checked their breathing, touched their foreheads, listened to their chests with a stethoscope. After a while, he straightened and adjusted his glasses. "They are weak," he said gravely. "Cold, hungry, but no sign of pneumonia yet. They need warmth, food, and close care." Adora nodded quickly. "Do whatever you must. Spare no effort." Chike's voice piped up timidly. Will they be all right?" Dr. Musa softened his tone. "Yes, if we care for them well. You've done well to keep them alive this long."
Cheeky's lips trembled, but he said nothing.
Adora stood tall. "Prepare one of the guest rooms. Set up a crib. And make sure they're given milk tonight." The staff hurried into action. Soon the babies were carried upstairs to a warm room with soft blankets and gentle lighting. Chike followed closely, refusing to leave their side. That night, Adora stood alone in her bedroom, staring out at the rain-soaked garden. Her mind raced.
Her husband's eyes. The baby's eyes. It couldn't be. Could it?
Her chest felt heavy, her hands cold. Memories of Kenechukwu flooded her mind, their laughter, their long nights of sorrow, the endless prayers for children that never came. She had trusted him with all her heart. And yet, her eyes shifted to a drawer at the corner of her room. Slowly, almost against her will, she pulled it open and retrieved a photo album. She hadn't touched it in years. She flipped through page after page until she found it Kenechukwu, smiling at their wedding, his hazel eyes shining in the sunlight. The same color she had just seen in the twins.
Adora's breath hitched.
Her knees felt weak. She sat heavily on the bed, pressing her face into her palms. "No, it can't be," she whispered. But deep down she already knew the truth was coming for her, and she was not ready for it. Morning sunlight streamed weakly through the tall curtains of the mansion. The rain had stopped, but the air outside was still heavy, the ground wet. Inside, the house was unusually alive, maids whispering, guards pacing, the faint cry of a baby echoing down the hallway. Adora sat at the long dining table, untouched breakfast before her. Her fingers were locked tightly together. Across from her, Chaik fed his sisters carefully from a small bowl of pap. His movements were clumsy but gentle. He blew softly on each spoonful before sliding it into Shidinma's tiny mouth. The baby swallowed, then gave a faint giggle. Adora's chest tightened. She cleared her throat. "Chaik," she said softly.
He looked up, wary but attentive.
"You told me your mother died when the twins were born. Who was your father?" Chaik's face darkened. He shifted in his chair. I don't know him well. He used to visit sometimes. He brought food." He smiled. "Then he left again. Mama said he lived in Lagos." Adora's breath caught. Her nails dug into her palms under the table. "What did he look like?" Chaik frowned, searching his memory. "I don't remember everything, but his eyes, they looked like theirs." He gestured at the twins. Adora's heart pounded. She pushed back her chair suddenly and stood, unable to sit any longer. She paced toward the window, her silk robe brushing the floor. She whispered almost to herself, "No, it can't be."
Chaik blinked at her. "Madam, did I say something wrong?"
Before Adora could answer, the heavy knock of fists thundered at the front door. The head guard hurried in, his voice low but urgent. "Madam, Chief Nadazi is here, and he brought 2 of the uncles." Adora's jaw clenched. She had been expecting this. Word had already leaked out.
"Let them in," she said coldly.
Moments later, 3 men stormed into the living room. Chief Nadazi, her late husband's elder brother, led the way, a stout man with a booming voice and eyes sharp like knives. Behind him trailed 2 younger relatives in matching agbadas, faces stern, their gazes sweeping the mansion as if measuring what they believed already belonged to them.
"Adora!" Chief Nadazi barked. "What madness have I heard?"
"You brought a street boy and babies into this house?" Adora remained seated now, her back straight, her hands folded. She refused to show weakness. "I didn't just bring them in. I saved them. They were drowning in rain, starving in the streets. Someone had to act," the younger uncle hissed. "And that someone is you? A woman of your status? Do you know the shame this will bring to our name?" Adora's lips curved into a cold smile. "Shame? The shame lies in letting children rot while you sit on wealth you never earned." Chief Nadazi slammed a palm on the glass table. "Careful, Adora! These are not your children. They are strangers. If you want to play mother, go adopt quietly. Do not disgrace the Obianuju family with rumors." Adora's voice hardened. "They are not strangers." She rose to her feet, her eyes blazing. "Look at them. Look at their eyes. Tell me they do not carry my husband's blood." The room fell silent for a heartbeat. Chaika froze, clutching his sisters protectively, his wide eyes darting from Adora to the angry men. The youngest uncle sneered. "Even if it is true, even if they are his, what of it? You are not their mother. You have no children, which means the family decides what happens to this house, this company, this fortune. Not you." Adora stepped forward until she stood face to face with him. Her voice was low but sharp as glass. "Not anymore. I decide. Because unlike you, I saw them. I held them. And I will not let them be thrown aside like trash." Chief Nadazi laughed bitterly. "You have lost your mind. Do you know what people are saying already? That you are desperate, clinging to bastards for comfort." Something snapped inside Adora. Her hand slammed down on the table, rattling the silverware. Her voice thundered. "Enough. Call them what you want, but I will tell you this, those children will not be abandoned again. If I must fight all of you, I will. If I must burn bridges, I will. But they stay. Here. With me." The baby stirred at the sharpness of her tone, beginning to cry. Chaik tightened his hold, his own lips trembling. But then, for the first time, he saw something in Adora's face that silenced his fear. Fire. Chief Nadizi's nostrils flared. He jabbed a finger at her. "You will regret this, Adora. The board, the shareholders, the courts, we will strip this empire from your hands. You are nothing without this family. Adora lifted her chin, unshaken. Then let them try, because unlike you, I have the truth, and I will fight with it. For a long, tense moment, the room crackled with unspoken threats. Then, with a swirl of Adora, the men stormed out, slamming the door behind them.
Silence followed, broken only by the muffled cries of the twins.
Adora turned slowly to Chike. His eyes brimmed with tears. I can go if I'm the cause of this trouble. Adora's sternness melted. She walked over, knelt before him, and placed her hands gently on his shoulders. Chike, look at me.
He raised his trembling eyes.
You are not leaving. Not today. Not ever. They are angry because you exist. But that anger is theirs, not yours. Do you understand?
Chike sniffled and nodded.
Adora wiped his cheek softly. I will protect you. All of you. Even if it costs me everything.
For the first time, Chike's lips quivered into a fragile smile.
The babies, comforted by Adora's touch, stopped crying. The storm outside had ended. But inside the mansion, a new war had just begun. The house was quieter that evening, though tension still hung in the air like smoke after a fire. Every servant moved cautiously, whispering instead of speaking, their footsteps soft on the polished floors. Everyone had heard the shouting match earlier. Everyone had seen the storm. Adora sat alone in her private lounge, a cup of tea untouched beside her. She stared at the flames dancing in the fireplace, her mind far away. For years she had built walls of steel around herself, walls of wealth, pride, and silence. But now, a boy and two fragile babies had walked into her life and cracked those walls wide open. She sighed deeply, leaning back in her chair. She could still hear Chief Nadazi's voice echoing in her head. They are not your children. You have no say. Her fists clenched. We'll see about that, she whispered. A knock at the door broke her thoughts. Neka, her trusted housemaid, stepped in quietly. Madame, the lawyer is here. Adora straightened, her expression hardening into resolve. Send him in. Moments later, Barrister Okafor, a slim man with sharp eyes and a calm demeanor, entered carrying a leather file. He bowed slightly. Madame Adora.
Sit, she said firmly.
He adjusted his glasses and opened his file. I received your urgent call. You said you wanted guardianship papers drawn immediately? Yes, Adora replied. For Cheeky and his sisters. I want it official. I don't care what the family says. The lawyer hesitated. Madam, you do understand this will trigger a serious legal battle. Your in-laws will contest it. Adora's eyes narrowed. Then let them. I am not afraid. The lawyer studied her face, then nodded slowly. Very well. I will prepare the paperwork. But, madam, he lowered his voice, there is one thing you may need, proof of paternity. If indeed the children are linked to your late husband, DNA will silence the loudest critics. Adora inhaled sharply. She had avoided this step, perhaps because she already feared the answer. But deep down, she knew the truth had to come out.
Arrange it, she said.
The lawyer closed his file and bowed again. I'll begin tomorrow. When he left, Adora sat in silence, her heart pounding. The truth was coming, whether she liked it or not. Later that night, she climbed the stairs and entered the nursery. The room was warm, painted in soft cream, with two tiny cribs set side by side. The babies slept soundly, their small chests rising and falling in peaceful rhythm. On the couch nearby, Cheeky was curled up, his arms wrapped protectively around himself. His clothes, though clean now, still hung loosely on his frame. He stirred when Adora stepped in, blinking sleepily.
Madam, he whispered.
Sure. Adora walked over and gently tucked a blanket around him. Rest. You're safe here. Cheeky's lips trembled. Are you going to send us away? Adora froze. For a moment she didn't answer. Then she knelt beside him, her hand resting on his thin shoulder. No, Cheeky. I'm not sending you anywhere. Do you believe me?
He stared at her, eyes wide, then nodded slowly.
Good, she whispered. Because I mean it. For the first time since she had met him, Cheeky's face relaxed into the faintest of smiles before he drifted back to sleep. Adora stood quietly, watching him, then turned her gaze to the twins. Their hazel brown eyes had haunted her since that night. Now, seeing them so peaceful, she realized something. Whether or not blood connected them, love already had. The next morning, Lagos gossip spread like wildfire. Newspapers carried the headline, "Wealthy widow brings street children into mansion, scandal or compassion." Talk shows debated her decision. Some praised her as a hero, others mocked her as desperate. And of course, the Obianuju family wasted no time fueling the fire, whispering to journalists that Adora had lost her mind in her loneliness. Inside the mansion, however, life moved on. Cheeky woke early, as he always did. He helped Neka prepare bottles for the twins, fed them carefully, and wiped their tiny faces with soft cloths. Adora watched him from the doorway, unseen. His hand shook a little, but his eyes were steady, filled with determination.
"You're good with them," she said softly.
Cheeky jumped, startled, and lowered his head shyly. "I try, madam. Mama used to say if I love them enough they won't feel pain."
Adora's throat tightened. "And do you love them?"
He looked up, his voice firm despite his small frame. "With everything I have." Adora smiled faintly. "Then you're already doing better than most men I know." By noon, Dr. Musa returned for another checkup. The twins were stronger, though still weak from hunger and exposure. He prescribed vitamins and instructed that they be fed every 2 hours. As he packed his things, he leaned close to Adora. "Madam, they are improving, but I must ask, what will you do long term? Caring for 3 children is no small task."
Adora's gaze shifted to the babies, then to Cheeky. "I will do what must be done, no matter the cost."
The doctor studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Then they are in the right hands." That afternoon, Barrister Okafor returned with papers. Adora sat at her grand desk, flipping through the documents carefully. Legal guardianship, adoption pathways, school enrollment for Cheeky. Every word weighed heavy, but her heart grew lighter with each signature she placed on the dotted lines. As she signed the last page, she whispered to herself, "This is it. No turning back." Neka entered just then, leading Cheeky by the hand. His eyes widened at the mountain of papers. "Madam, what are these?" Adora looked at him calmly. "They are proof, Cheeky. Proof that from today you and your sisters belong here. Whip me." His mouth fell open. For a moment he said nothing. Then tears spilled down his cheeks. He dropped to his knees before her, clutching her hand. Thank you, madame. I don't have words." Adora's throat tightened. She knelt too, lifting his chin gently. "Don't thank me, Cheeky. Just promise me one thing."
"What, madam?"
"Promise me you will never give up on yourself. You are not just a boy from the street anymore. You are family now. You are mine." Cheeky burst into tears again, burying his face in her embrace. For the first time in years, Adora felt something she thought she had lost forever: hope. The days that followed were both tender and turbulent. Inside the mansion, the sound of babies laughing replaced the old silence. Cheeky began attending lessons with a private tutor, struggling at first but determined to learn. Adora herself spent evenings reading to the twins, her once lonely nights now filled with soft giggles and tiny hands tugging at her scarf. But outside, the battle was fierce. Her in-laws filed a case in court, accusing her of emotional instability and unfit judgment. Reporters camped near her gates, shouting questions every time her car rolled out. Business partners called, worried about her reputation. One night, as she tucked the twins into their crib, Cheeky asked timidly, "Madam, are we making your life harder?" Adora froze, then turned slowly. She walked to him, placed her hands on his shoulders, and said firmly, "Cheeky, listen to me. You did not make my life harder. You gave it meaning. Don't ever doubt that."
His eyes filled with tears, but he nodded.
Adora pulled him into a tight embrace. "I will fight for you. For all of you. Until my last breath."
And she meant every word.
The legal war was only beginning, but something had shifted. Adora had already won the battle inside her heart. For years, she had been a woman defined by wealth, power, and loss. But now she was something more, a mother, not by blood, but by choice.
And nothing, not even the Obianuju family, could take that away from her.
Months passed, and Adora's mansion was no longer a house of silence. The once quiet halls now echoed with laughter, cries, and the patter of small feet. The twins had grown stronger, walking shakily, tumbling into Adora's arms as she clapped and cheered. Cheeky had transformed too. His shoulders were straighter, his eyes brighter. He was no longer the frightened boy trembling at a bus stop.
He was a brother, a student, and for the first time a child with dreams.
One evening, Adora sat in the garden with Cheeky and the twins. The sunset painted the sky in shades of gold and crimson. Cheeky was reading a storybook aloud, his voice steady, while the twins giggled at the pictures. Adora leaned back in her chair, watching them with a smile that came from deep within her soul.
For so many years, she had believed her life was complete with wealth, but empty without children. She had blamed herself for her barrenness, cried in secret when no one could see. But now she understood something greater. Sometimes family isn't given by blood. Sometimes God places people in our path to teach us love, patience, and faith. She remembered the scripture, a father to the fatherless, a defender of widows is God in his holy dwelling. God sets the lonely in families. Tears filled her eyes. She whispered softly, Lord, you set me in a family I never expected. And for that, I thank you. Cheeky closed the book and looked up at her. Madam, sorry, Mama. He still stumbled over the new title sometimes. Do you think God really sent you to us? Adora reached over and pulled him close. Yes, Cheeky. I believe he did. And I believe he sent you to me too, to remind me that love is stronger than fear. The boy's eyes glistened. He nodded, hugging her tightly. Adora lifted her gaze to the twins, who were clapping their tiny hands, and she remembered another verse. Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. Matthew 19, verse 14, she whispered, and now the kingdom of heaven also belongs in this house. As night fell, Adora stood at her balcony overlooking the city lights of Lagos. For years she had been known as cold, proud, unreachable, but now she knew her true legacy would not be in her businesses or her riches. Her legacy would be in the children she chose to love and the world looked away. She turned back into the house where Cheeky and the twins slept peacefully, and her voice trembled with conviction. I may have lost a husband, but God gave me a family. I may have been empty, but now I am full. Truly, all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. Adora finally felt free. And so, dear listener, this story teaches us something powerful. Wealth is meaningless if it does not serve others. Love is the true inheritance, and compassion is the crown we wear before God. When you help someone who has nothing, you are fulfilling the words of Jesus. Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. Matthew 25, verse 40. Adora found children at a bus stop in the rain, and instead of driving away, she stopped. That decision changed not only their lives, but also her own. Sometimes one act of kindness is all it takes to turn sorrow into joy, despair into hope, and strangers into family. If this story touched your heart, don't just keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs hope today. Leave a comment below with your thoughts. What would you have done if you were Adora? And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories that remind us of God's love, second chances, and the beauty of family. Because at the end of the day, we are all called to love. And love, true love, is what makes us rich. Thanks for watching this story all the way to the end. You're amazing for staying with us. If you enjoyed this video, don't stop here. We've got plenty more stories just like this one waiting for you. Simply click on one of the videos popping up on your screen right now and keep the journey going. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next upload. Until next time, stay inspired, stay curious, and keep the stories alive.